you found it to be true. It seems like a lot of people look at any of us who are Christians, and I think we have this holier kind of attitude that we're better than them. Okay, sorry. Anyway, I think there's a little misconception about who we are as Christians and what our background is. So I'll dispel that a little bit today with the fact that I am a twice divorced person. The first one, marriage lasted 9 months. I didn't think I had time to mess up in 9 months. But the truth was that I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. We had a big country club wedding, 9 months and I'm out. So for 2 or 3 months, I didn't even want to see people. And to try and make that adjustment. So then I get involved again, get remarried, and take the family back to Illinois for a couple of years, and I came back to help start a branch office for this company. There was a real sharp young man that was sent in advance of me to just call on, we were going to do savings loans, insurance work with savings loans. So he was there to get things ready, and then I was coming out. Well, when I got out and started making my rounds, I was not very well received. In fact, it was really cold, and I wasn't sure what had happened. And then I found out that this young man had been passing some disparaging words about me. And so he kind of set a bad situation there. Well, I tell you, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced a fear where you actually kind of get frozen, but I was frozen. I had a wife and 3 kids, and I needed that job, and I had no idea how to do battle with this thing. I even found myself walking in a mall in the afternoon aimlessly. I had no purpose. I just couldn't move and make a decision. Well, we did resolve that, but I've never forgotten that fear and that absolute lack of peace that I had, and the remembrance of just not being in any control whatsoever. I then thought, well, I think I've had enough of this corporate stuff, so I'll start my own business. In retrospect, I made the mistake of getting too involved in it to get it started. I got involved in some organizations. If you're in sales, you make some contacts. And incidentally, I was invited to come to a Christian businessmen's group, but I really didn't. I did go, but I liked the people, but I didn't really understand too much of it. And I apologize for the. At any rate, I'll come back to that in a second. When every year my dad, my brother, and I would head up the Sierras and go fishing for a week. And it was just a special time. And in 1979, I took my oldest boy, and we had a great camping trip. And when we came back, though, I was dead tired. And as I was trying to pack everything, get it back in place, my wife asked me to sit down for a minute, wanted to talk to me. And she explained to me that she no longer loved me and that she wanted to end our marriage. Well, here came that fear again, that devastation. I had a little guy, about this high that could dribble the ball with both hands. You know, I was thinking, I just had those 3 kids. I just loved them. And again, I was lost. And I found myself walking the streets of Tustin. We were in Tustin, California at that time. Found myself walking the streets of Tustin, and it was after midnight. I don't remember exactly. But I'd heard something from that Christian businessmen's group. And I was so desperate, and I said, Lord, if you're real, would you just come into my life? I can't do this anymore. I'm an abject failure as a husband, apparently, and I guess I just don't know how to do things. And that was the best I could communicate to him. Well, when I came back, the sun was coming up in the morning, and I wish I could describe it. I just felt like this tremendous weight had been lifted off my shoulders. It was just incredible. And so I began the process of praying and learning to read my Bible. And then I asked my wife if I could put a couple of notes around the house. I had one that said, "We're growing back together because the Lord says so." And she let me do that. But after a period of time, the marriage was over. And in fact, I even took my children. I took my children up to the Bay Area where she moved, and what a killer that was when I left that day. I joined our local large church and got involved with the singles group and met my 3rd wife. And Joni was just a strong believer. And why she took on a 2-time loser like me, I have no idea. I just was shocked. Her husband had left her with 3 boys, so we became the Brady Bunch, and really rolled pretty good. Well, our first marital challenge, I guess, was my daughter. She was cute and she was smart, but she thought she needed to lose a little weight. And she had been watching the Oprah Winfrey show, and they had some models on there that would talk about binging and purging. I don't know if any of you have known anybody that had to struggle with that. But anyway, she thought that was a good idea, so she started that. The problem was she was not able to stop. And I kid you not, her legs were like that big around. It was like Auschwitz. And at age 28, she passed away. We had put her in 2 different facilities, and it just didn't take. This time around, for some reason, I felt a real peace. We had tried everything we could to try and help her. And so, for some reason, whether it's because we had tried everything, I don't know. I just felt a real peace. And I was so grateful for it. Well, the next issue was my wife, Joan. It was discovered that she had ovarian cancer, stage 4. So we began the process of working through that with her chemo and that sort of thing. She was so strong. It was just fantastic for me. Her faith was so strong. She was just able to weather it. And unfortunately, after a couple of years, we finally lost her. But again, I just felt a peace. We had prayed like mad. And yet, the Lord took her anyway. I guess that's when I began to understand this thing about the Lord always answers prayer. You know, he either says yes, no, or maybe you got to hold off for a little while. But at any rate, that's what happened. Is I felt this great peace. Well, I become a single guy again, and it didn't take a whole long time to discover that I was an absolute lousy cook. So I was able to talk Judy Sullivan into becoming my wife. And now by now we're kind of a mature, if you know what I mean, couple. And so we were kind of hoping we'd pull off maybe 10 years or so. And she got 1 year, and then I got Bell's palsy. Anybody experienced Bell's palsy or know it? Yeah. In my case, half of my head just kind of drooped down. And I'd tell people, I said, half of me over here is really happy to see you, the other half's still thinking about it. And so we went through the process of trying to fix that. And we were on the back end of it, and I had some trouble. My thing was down so low, and I had a little trouble chewing and stuff like that. So I said, well, why don't see if we can find a cosmetic surgeon that might fix this a little. So we got this doctor, and I told him, I said, I don't have to go through your booklet. I'd like to look a little like Clark Gable. And he actually didn't have a whole lot of sense of humor, I didn't think. And he said, I don't do miracles. So what he left me with is that we did get raised a little bit. Well, we've got this scar, I've got this little speech impediment, and I've got the same face that I started with. Well, about that time, they discovered that I had prostate cancer. So that's not uncommon for men. So I started in on the treatments with that. And about then, I'm thinking to myself, Lord, the Bible talks about our getting challenges so that it strengthens us. And I said, well, I think I'm getting the message. So if okay, maybe you give this to somebody else. I didn't say that to him, but I sure did think about it. Well, then we're just on the tail end of that, and I get an ear infection. So we start treating that for antibiotics, and we treated for about 2 months. But blood started coming out of my ear. So, being the bright guy that I am, I said, hey, we got an issue here. So they do a biopsy and discover that I have a squamous cell cancer that's in the ear, and it's actually taken over most of my head. I don't know how any of you have, when you've had a doctor, when he kind of looks out the window when you ask him a question. These guys, they just didn't seem to know exactly what to do. And so they kind of turned me over to this fellow that does immune therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I wasn't, but I love the concept. Basically, you're taking your cells and fighting the cancer instead of killing it off. And so we've been through that. And so far, the cancer in my head has disappeared. Now, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and my right eye, kind of lifted up, and I would see double vision, and now as that start to even out, and even my eye doctor said, "You're a miracle," but we know what the miracle is, and of course through all that is the prayers taking place, obviously, to take care of it. So I don't know that we're finished yet. Cancer is one of those funny things that has a tendency to show up somewhere else. But for right now, I just praise him for allowing me to have life and to do it. As I kind of thought about talking this morning, one of the things that really hit me, I kind of looked back and I said, You know, one of the things that I noticed was that I was not at peace before I came to Christ. The things I would have that fear, and I've had absolutely perfect peace with this, with all of it, and frankly a little surprised. You know, we do the work at the church, we pray for people, we do all these things, but then when it hits us, you know, what is our reaction? And I have just absolutely been able to have perfect peace. If he decides to take me, we know where we're going. If he doesn't, I still get to stick around and work on my golf game. So, so that's one of the takeaways from it. And the other one certainly is this issue of prayer. And to me, prayer became trust. I finally understood prayer, unless we trust, we're really, I suppose, talking to a wall. I don't know if I understand that totally. But when we trust in him, when he's a reality in our life, then we're very comfortable with whatever he brings our way. And as Paul had said, you know, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. So, thanks.